Log9, 5 movies. Quantum of Solace is a movie that really thinks it's directed by Paul Greengrass, but it's not, and the quick cut style and shaky cam ruin any potential for at least some neat action sequences. Makes me appreciate movies like last year's Fury Road with relatively wide, long takes and attention to eye tracks, because whenever I latch on to something in a Quantum of Solace sequence, I'm suddenly jerked to another angle, and it's frustrating because you can tell they were just dumping shovelfuls of money into the furnace to craft this movie, and you can't appreciate it because of the movie's style. It's also awkwardly half connected to Casino Royale in the way that I imagine all of Tom Hanks's second and third cousins like to weave that fact into any and all conversations. Yeah, I know I'm not that great, but if I can remind you of this slight association I have with this other awesome thing, maybe you'll think otherwise. The talented actors that this movie boasts aren't allowed to shine, and otherwise it's poorly written, poorly executed, and a movie that I only watched for one reason. I own it, and now that I've seen it, I'm never going to watch it again. This documentary, pretty brutal and effective at letting its subject matter speak for itself. I really appreciate how much respect this doc has for its audience. And even though I don't consider myself a documentary guy, this one has serious artistic value and is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. There were certain elements, like the protagonist's aging father, that I couldn't find much of a purpose in, but the doc is still well put together, worthy of conversation, and offers some nice shots and interesting interviews. There's not much of a resolution, but that really fits with the haunting atmosphere that it's going for, and I think I'd be unfair to give this any less than an 8 out of 10. Matthew McConaughey, Dallas Buyers Club, better than Leo and the Wolf of Wall Street. This is a movie that lacks a real so what to it, in my opinion. Bit of a disappointing conclusion, but it takes you on a great ride. There are some serious emotional highs, and the timeline of events is well portrayed, so this is a movie I'd recommend, but not one that I necessarily celebrate. The critical reaction to Brooklyn. What? This movie leaves something to be desired. Not that I think it's a bad movie, it's actually pretty good. And I gotta recognize that this isn't my kind of flick to begin with. But the conflict that eventually emerges is so weak, and this film takes no major risks whatsoever. But Brooklyn is a movie that is what it is, 100%. And operating on that stipulation, this movie's practically perfect. The dialogue is witty, clever, entertaining, and even the minor characters bring something to be enjoyed in this movie. This is a thoroughly enjoyable movie. It's also technically on point, especially in the colors department. Brooklyn has a vibrant look to it that is very fitting, and color correction changes scene to scene are appropriate. I'm not saying this movie should have won Best Picture, but I accept it as a nomination and maintain that this was a competitive year at the Academy Awards, and that there wasn't a single film nominated for the big prize that I didn't rate at least a 7 out of 10. Charlie Kaufman has written some masterpieces, but I feel about Anomalisa about the same way I do about Synecdoche, New York. If that's a movie you admire, then this film's right up your alley. But I see Anomalisa as a excess of sub-themes and quirks that fail to make up for an otherwise uninteresting story. This movie didn't need to be animated. I'll clarify, the animation looks superb. This is a beautiful movie, but the only purpose to the animation that I can think of is to provide that something for us to appreciate while watching the movie that's otherwise quite mundane. And means to allow a greater degree of control to the film's directors. This magnifies what is great about a Kaufman movie, but otherwise, I found the fact that this movie was animated distracting at times and even gimmicky. Talk about distracting, well, having Tom Noonan voice nearly every character, male and female, in this film sounds like a fun quirk on paper and serves a definite purpose. In practice, it's off-putting, distracting. This movie has some interesting themes woven into it about humanity, the human condition, the frustration that comes with life's monotony, and I'm sure there are other ones that I am missing having only seen this film once. While these make a nice side, I'm unsatisfied with them as a main course, and outside the niche audience that will undoubtedly love this movie, I think general audiences will be disappointed by the surface level film. So there are things to appreciate about Anomalisa. I didn't hate it. It looks great. It's a technical marvel. Some of the themes are unique, even touching, interesting, but the film lacks in the entertainment department, and that considered, I'll give Anomalisa a 6 out of 10, which I don't consider a poor score.